We are in Jerusalem, and it is roughly 700 years before Jesus is ever born. The Roman Empire does not exist yet. It will not exist for centuries. He is describing a man, and the things he writes about this man are almost too brutal to say out loud. He says this man will be despised and rejected. He says this man will be beaten until his face is barely recognizable as human. He says this man will be crushed. And then Isaiah writes one word that should not even be possible for another 700 years. He says this man will be pierced. Think about what that actually means. Isaiah is describing a Roman crucifixion hundreds of years before the Romans ever invented it, in a nation that had never once executed anyone that way. He writes the whole thing in the past tense, as if he is standing at the foot of a cross that will not be built for 7 centuries, watching it happen in real time. And in the next few minutes, I am going to show you why this one chapter is the single thread that holds the entire Bible together, and why once you see it, you can never read the rest of the book the same way again. Before we go any further, let me ask you one quick thing, because it genuinely matters for what comes next. If any part of this makes something click for you today, drop a comment and tell me which chapter I should unfold next. I read every one of them, and the whole point of this channel is that we walk through the Bible one chapter at a time, together, so your comment literally decides where we go from here. Okay, now let me show you what almost everyone misses. Here is the mistake most people make with Isaiah 53. They read it as a poem. A sad, beautiful, poetic metaphor about the suffering of the nation of Israel, and nothing more. And if that is all you see, you will walk right past the central architecture of the entire Bible without ever noticing it was there. Because this chapter is not a vague poem about general sadness. It is a detailed, specific, itemized description of an execution that had not been invented yet. The cross was not an accident, and it was not an afterthought. It was precisely detailed 700 years before it happened. Let me prove it to you, piece by piece. Start with that one word, pierced. It shows up in Isaiah 53 verse 5. He was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The Hebrew word underneath it is kalal, and while scholars still debate its finer edges, it carries the sense of being bored through, run clean through, pierced. Now put yourself in the 8th century before Christ, when Isaiah is actually writing this. How did people execute someone in that world? In Israel, the legal method was stoning. You threw stones until the person was dead. On a battlefield, you might run a man through with a sword or a spear. But the specific horror of driving iron spikes through a person's hands and feet, and hanging them on a wooden beam to slowly suffocate for days, did not exist in Isaiah's world. No one around him had ever seen it. That was a signature Roman technology, refined and industrialized centuries later, deliberately engineered to cause the maximum amount of pain over the longest possible stretch of time. Isaiah had no cultural reference for it whatsoever, and yet there it is, written down, centuries too early. Now hold on to that word, pierced, because here is where it gets strange. Flip back 300 years before Isaiah to King David, writing Psalm 22. David is not a prophet by trade. He is a shepherd turned king, pouring out what sounds like a raw, personal song of anguish. And in the middle of it, he writes a line about his hands and his feet being pierced. Now let me be honest with you here, because honesty is the whole point. The oldest Hebrew manuscripts of this exact line are debated, and any careful translator will tell you that openly. But here is what settles it for a lot of people. 3 centuries before Jesus was ever born, Jewish scholars themselves translated their own scriptures into Greek, and when they reached this line, with no Christian in sight and no agenda to push, they wrote it plainly. They pierced my hands and my feet. So sit with that. 2 completely different authors, 300 years apart, neither one living in a world where crucifixion existed at all, and both of them describing the exact same Roman execution method, centuries before Rome was ever an empire. This is not the kind of coincidence you can wave away. The cross was not an accident, and it was not an afterthought. It was detailed 700 years before it happened, and David glimpsed a piece of it 300 years before that. Now here is the second thing, and a listener in the 1st century would have heard this and been completely confused by it. Isaiah 53 verse 9 says he was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death. Read that slowly, because on its face it makes no sense. It is a historical contradiction. If you were a condemned criminal in the Roman world, executed as one of the wicked, here is exactly what happened to your body. You did not get a grave. You got thrown into a mass pit, often in a place like the Valley of Hinnom, outside the city, left for the animals and the fire. That was the entire point of crucifixion. It was designed to erase you, to deny you the dignity of a burial, to make a public example that lasted long after you were dead. A crucified criminal receiving a proper tomb was not just unlikely, it was almost unheard of. So how on earth does a man die executed with the wicked, and then somehow get buried with the rich? For hundreds of years, no one could explain that line. It just sat there in the text. An apparent error, a contradiction nobody could resolve, until one specific afternoon outside Jerusalem. A wealthy man named Joseph of Arimathea walks up to the Roman governor, Pontius Pilate, and asks for the body of a crucified man named Jesus. And instead of letting that body go into the pit, Joseph takes it and lays it in his own brand new, expensive, hand-cut tomb, the kind of tomb only a rich man could ever afford. A man executed with the wicked, buried with the rich. The exact contradiction Isaiah wrote down 700 years earlier, resolved down to the last detail. History did not break the text. History unlocked it. And this is the thing I really need you to feel. That was not a lucky guess, and it was not a vague prediction that could match almost anyone. It is a strange, oddly specific, self-contradicting detail that sat unexplained for 7 centuries, and then got resolved in a single afternoon by one wealthy man and one borrowed tomb. The smallest details in this chapter are not decoration. They read like a script, written long before the actors ever walked on stage. Now, if you are still with me, you are about to see the part that reframes the entire sacrificial system of the Old Testament, so stay right here. But first, remember the thread we keep coming back to. The cross was not an accident. It was detailed 700 years early. And here is a quick one for you. Pause for just a second and actually think about it. Why does Isaiah keep saying we all the way through this chapter? We esteemed him not. We hid our faces from him. We, like sheep, have gone astray. Who exactly is the we? Drop your answer in the comments before you hear mine. Now for the third reveal, and this is the one that changes everything behind it. For thousands of years, if you were a Jewish person carrying real guilt, you did something very physical about it. You took an animal. There was a specific offering for this, called the asham, the guilt offering. The logic was ancient and simple. Sin costs a life, so a life stands in your place. Every single asham, for the entire history of Israel, was an animal. That was the rule. That was the whole system, generation after generation. And then Isaiah 53 verse 10 does something that should stop you cold. It says the Lord makes his life an asham, a guilt offering. His life. For the first time in the entire biblical record, the asham is not a lamb. The asham is a person. The offering suddenly has a face. And right there, the we from a minute ago snaps into focus, because the guilt being carried is ours. Now think about what that does to everything that came before it. Every altar, every priest, every lamb, every drop of blood in the Old Testament was never the real thing. It was a scale model, a shadow cast backward in time by something that had not even happened yet. Thousands of years of ritual, all of it quietly pointing forward to one specific hill outside Jerusalem called Golgotha. Let me slow down for a moment, because it is easy to turn this into a lecture and miss the human weight of it. Picture an ordinary father, thousands of years ago, walking a young lamb up a dusty road to the temple. He cannot read. He has never heard the word prophecy. He only knows the warmth of the animal in his arms and the ache of his own failures. He hands it over, he watches, and he walks home feeling lighter, without ever knowing that every step he took was a rehearsal, that he was quietly acting out one small scene from a story whose final act was still centuries away. That is what this chapter does. It takes thousands of these small, forgotten moments and shows you they were all pointing at the same face. And this is exactly why I keep telling you, if you understand Isaiah 53, you understand how the whole Bible actually works, because it proves the cross was the plan from page 1. Watch how tightly the whole thing is stitched together. Go all the way back to the very beginning. to Genesis, chapter 3. Right after everything falls apart in the garden, God makes a strange and specific promise. He says a seed, an offspring, will one day come who will crush the serpent's head, but in the process of doing it, his own heel will be struck. A victor who wins, but who gets wounded in the winning. A suffering champion. Hold that image. Now jump forward to the Psalms, to Psalm 22, and you hear the actual voice of that champion in his lowest moment, crying out, feeling utterly forsaken, describing pierced hands and pierced feet. Then you arrive right here, in Isaiah 53, and you are handed the details, the almost clinical, historical breakdown of how that wounding would actually happen. Pierced, crushed, the silent before his accusers, executed alongside criminals, buried in the tomb of a rich man, offered up as a guilt offering. Genesis promises the wound. The Psalms give it a voice. Isaiah gives it the blueprint. The Gospels give it a name. The entire Bible, from the very first pages to the very last, is one continuous rescue operation, orchestrated across 1,000 years and dozens of authors who never once met each other. But here is the turn, and this is the part I really want you to hear. You have been watching this whole thing as a historical prophecy, as a puzzle to solve, as a stack of evidence, and it is all of that. But Isaiah 53 is not ultimately a puzzle. It is a mirror. There is a reason the text says he had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him, and so we esteemed him not. Be honest for a moment about what we all actually want. We want a conquering king. We want a God who shows up in raw, obvious power. A God who fixes our bank account overnight, who heals the diagnosis instantly, who humiliates the people who hurt us, who makes our lives easy and impressive and safe. We want a warrior on a white horse who rides in and makes all of it stop. But that is not who God sent. God sent a suffering servant. He sent someone who did not skip the pain, but who walked directly into the very center of it. So let me ask you something real. Where in your life, right now, are you demanding a God of pure triumph and completely missing the God who chose to enter your suffering with you? Maybe you clicked on this video because you feel crushed right now. Maybe something this year has genuinely broken you. If that is you, then hear this as clearly as I can say it. Isaiah 53 is the proof that God does not just watch your suffering from a safe distance. He stepped into the exact center of it, on purpose, in his own body. So let us go back one last time to that quiet room in Jerusalem. The oil lamp is burning low now. The ink is drying on the scroll. The prophet sets down his reed pen, and honestly, he does not fully understand what he just wrote. He has just described a Roman cross that will not be built for 7 centuries, and he has no possible way of knowing that. But God does, because it was never just cold, mechanical prediction. It was a love letter, written 700 years in advance, with your name quietly folded into it. He did not know your face, but the one who guided his hand did. One chapter, unfolded, and the whole Bible reads differently now. So if you know someone who thinks the Bible is just a random pile of ancient myths that do not connect to anything, send them this video, because it might be the one piece that finally makes the whole thing click for them. Then tell me in the comments which chapter I should unfold next. Next time, we are opening Revelation, chapter 1, the chapter that closes the loop that Genesis opened at the very beginning. Because the cross was not an accident, and it was not an afterthought. It was detailed 700 years before it ever happened, and that one fact changes absolutely everything.